Yo, what's happening, guys? It's GM Cody, and welcome back to another video. And of course, tonight we're doing part two of our rules overview of Warhammer Renaissance, the 2025 edition. Sorry, this video has been delayed. I meant to do this earlier in the week, but it's been a pretty crazy week, and it's been an even crazier weekend. If you guys have been paying attention to the news here in the Southeast, we've had some pretty crazy weather. And in fact, we were actually out of power last night because we had like 90-mile-an-hour winds blowing through here and tornadoes and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, we were out of power until like 11 o'clock today. So sorry for the delay, but we're doing the video now tonight. So or end of the week, beginning of the week, however you look at it. So yeah, tonight we're continuing part two of our overview of the Warhammer Renaissance rules. If you haven't watched part one, I recommend going back to that, and I also recommend maybe going back and watching the first video I did, which is kind of a summary about what Warhammer Renaissance is all about. And we're not going to talk about that tonight because I already covered that. So last time we talked about the movement rules, we talked about shooting, and we talked about melee combat. And tonight we're going to talk about all the other stuff. So I think where we left off on, and we're going to jump straight into it, is we're going to be talking about psychology. So this part, actually, this second part is probably not going to take as long as the first part did, because it's just there's not a lot of nitty-gritty things to go through here, and from here on out, there's really not a lot of rules to review. But I wanted to break this up into two parts because there are a lot of rules overall, and it would be like an hour and a half video if I didn't do otherwise. So this video probably won't be as long as the first one, just to say the least. So psychology. So there are different psychological effects in Warhammer Fantasy. If you've ever played Warhammer Fantasy, you know about them. The first one, which we already kind of talked about, is panic. Now, you take a panic test depending on certain situations. One, if you, of course, lose 25% of your unit due to ranged shooting, you have to take a panic test. And what a panic test is you roll 2 dice, 2d6, and trying to roll equal to or under your leadership score. And, of course, if you have a champion or hero, you test off of their leadership score, which we'll talk about a little bit later, too, but that's what it is. Basically, you test off the highest leadership in the unit. There's exceptions to that, like a battle standard bearer and your general, which we'll get into when we talk about characters a little bit. The other reasons you would take a panic test is if you there's a fleeing unit within 8 inches of your unit. There is a unit that has been destroyed or breaks from melee combat within 8 inches. Or if a unit that is fleeing passes through your unit that is not panicking as well. So those are the cases where you'd panic. If you panic, you move directly away from the source of panic, and I believe it's the same as running out of combat. Probably, like if you lose a combat test. I believe that is the case. I can't remember now. Anyways, it's not that important. Either way, you move away. I don't remember if you roll for it or if you just move, like double your movement or whatever. Can't remember now, actually, and I don't see it on here, funny enough. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking for it. Either way, those are the cases where you'd panic and you'd move away from the source of panic. Frenzy. Frenzy is a special rule certain types of units have. If you're frenzied, you're immune to psychology, like panic, fear, terror. Must always charge if able. So after you declare charges, you have to. If you didn't declare a charge with that unit, you have to pre-measure to see if they can charge. If they can charge, they have to make a charge. If they can't, they don't. Must always pursue if you win a combat. Double the number of attacks. And frenzy characters cannot decline a challenge, which we talked about challenges last time. And a frenzy unit loses this frenzy if it's broken, not beaten at melee combat. So that's frenzy. Next up, we have immune to psychology. Just like it says, you're immune to the effects of terror, fear, and panic. Unbreakable. Unbreakable units are immune to psychology and never break from combat. Resolute. Whenever a resolute unit is required to take a leadership test, Basically, they get to roll an extra die. They roll 3 dice and pick the 2 lowest dice. Fear. Units which take a fear test. If a unit has fear, it's another special rule. The opposing unit has to take a leadership test when they're charged by that unit. If it fails its leadership test, it's -2 to hit. If it wants to charge an enemy of fears, it failed. The unit must remain stationary in its turn. It can neither shoot nor cast spells. So when a unit is beaten in combat resolution by an enemy of fears and is outnumbered by, the unit is automatically broken and forced to flee. Unit that causes fear is not affected by fear itself. Terror. A creature that causes terror automatically causes fear as well. A unit that causes terror is not affected by terror itself. A unit that causes fear will fear a unit that causes terror. You do not take both fear and terror tests. Just take a terror test. You just take one. A unit becomes immune to terror once it has passed the terror test. When a terror test is passed, terror-causing monsters will simply count as fear-causing monsters the unit questions. Units not already fleeing must take a terror test when the following incidents occur. If charged by or wishing to charge a terror-causing enemy. Do not take this test before the charging unit is found to be within range. There is a terror-causing enemy within 8 inches of the unit at the start of the turn. Unengaged units that fail a fear test must flee directly away from the source of terror, just like fleeing. If a fleeing unit was engaged in melee combat, it flees directly from the enemy with which it was engaged. The enemy may pursue it only if it won the previous combat round and is otherwise unengaged. So that's terror. Stupidity. Units with stupidity roll, like trolls, have to take a leadership test every turn. If they fail, they stumble forward, half the movement rate, and don't do anything. And that's stupidity. And they are immune to psychology as well. Stubborn units always take their break tests without applying the negative modifiers from combat resolution. Hatred. When in melee combat, the following rules apply. Number 1, models that have hatred may reroll miss to hit rolls against hated enemies in the first round of each combat engagement. Number 2, units must pursue a hated enemy that breaks from combat. Number 3, units that lose a combat to a hated enemy are stubborn. And number 4, characters cannot decline a challenge from an enemy they hate. So there we go. Fleeing. Here's the rules for fleeing, and yeah, it's much the same, I believe. I'm going to skip through a lot of this here because there's different circumstances to fleeing, and they describe the different circumstances here, which I'm not going to go through every single one of these. But yeah, it's the same. You roll the move just like if you lost combat. It's 2d6 inches for units with a movement allowance of 6 or less, and 3d6 for units with a movement allowance of 7 or more. And like I said, there's different situations here, and they go through all the different situations about fleeing and all the most of the circumstances you would need to be aware of with that, which I'm not going to go into all that, but it's here. And that's basically the psychology rules. So there you go. Characters. This is really not necessary to go through every single bit of this, but I'll go through a little bit of it. So you have basically 2 different types of characters. You have regimental champions, which stay with the regiment always, and they are part of the regiment, but they are tougher. They're the champion of the unit, so they're tougher models. They have better characteristics. And then you have independent characters, which can be attached to units or can be separate from units, and they can roam around and act as independent characters, or they can join units and leave units at any time and join other units. And those are independent characters, and those are more like your lord type and hero type characters in your general. Here's all the rules about joining regiments. Characters and regiment psychology. We already kind of hinted at this, that you always go off basically the highest leadership value in the unit. So if a champion has a higher leadership value, or if you have a lord or a hero in there with a higher leadership value, it always goes off their leadership value. Characters forming unit. 2 characters can form a unit by simply standing in base contact with each other. So there you go. Characters can challenge. Challenges. I don't think we talked about challenges last time, but basically, when you have 2 characters in the unit and a unit charges, the charging unit can issue a challenge to the opposing character. If the character refuses the challenge, I believe they just go to the back of the rank, and that's it. They can't fight. And I do not believe anybody steps up to to take their place. Can refuse. Characters refusing challenge cannot cast spells or make any of their characters. They are in fact out of the battle till the beginning of the next melee phase when they're returned to base content of the enemy. So I think that's the case. Any character can accept the challenge. If you accept the challenge, the characters fight separately, and so you kind of like you can leave them in the unit if you want, but a lot of times people take them out and put them to the side, and you basically have an epic duel, and that's that. These wounds and stuff also count towards combat resolution up to 3. And yeah, that's it. That's what a challenge is essentially. General and the battle standard. So if any units are within 12 inches of your general, they test off his leadership, and you can also upgrade one of your heroes to carry the battle standard. If they have a battle standard, and I believe you still have to pay the points for it in Renaissance. Pretty 99% sure you do. Units within 12 inches of the battle standard get to re-roll failed leadership tests, which is pretty sick. Pretty much everybody wants, you want to have a battle standard in your army. It's pretty standard. Here we go. Some special rules. Chariots. So chariots have a crew and they have the chariot. Any attacks made against the chariot, you go against the crew's weapon skill and the chariot's toughness and wounds. Characters can fire from chariots, and they do not suffer the move penalty for firing from chariots. Chariots also, when they charge, they do impact hits. They do automatic, certain amount of random impact hits. Here it is. Impact hits are 1d6 hits, plus 2 if having scythe wills. And they're inflicted at the beginning of the melee phase before normal fighting. So there you go. That's the advantage of chariots. Chariots are pretty cool. Monsters. So you have different kinds of monsters, and they are independent creatures, as you would assume. And also you can have mounts for characters, like lords and heroes can have some options to ride on monsters. If they are doing so in combat, you have to roll to see if you hit the character or you hit the monster, depending on the size of the monster. In small monsters, you have to roll a 5 or 6 and the character is hit. On a large monster, only on a roll of a 6 is the character hit. And it's the same thing with templates. You roll to see if that happens. If the monster is slain, but the character is not, the character you replace a character model on foot with the monster. If the character is slain before the monster, you have to roll 2d6 or High Elf Dragons roll 3d6 on the monster reaction table to see what the monster does, because he doesn't have his rider with him, and he might stay in combat, he might go berserk on everybody, or he might just leave. You have to roll, see what happens. Pretty cool. I definitely like the monster rules. Aerial combat, so flying monsters like wyverns and dragons, they can fly 20 inches. It's not doubled, of course, with marching and charging. They can pass over all obstacles on the battlefield. No enemy can claim bonus for defending obstacles against flying creatures, large or not. When pursuing a fly creature, rolls 3d6 and follows the rules normally applicable to fly moves. If a flying creature loses in combat, they are driven off, and they have to use their ground movement. All other flee moves are used by their fleeing move, which is 3d6. If beaten flyers succeed their break test, they are driven off, which means they fly off the table and cannot be pursued. And in the next turn, they're put on one of the player's table edge. They can also choose to leave melee combat as one, as if it had been driven off. Flying high is another option for flying creatures, so you cannot do this in the first turn of the game. Like, you can't say right at deployment the monster's flying high. You have to deploy it on the tabletop first, and then when you activate that monster and it's your turn, you can claim the dragon or wyvern, whatever the flying creature is flying high. When that happens, you take it off the board. It can't be shot at. I don't believe spells can be cast at it. And then on the next turn, you can place it anywhere on the table. It can also charge from flying high, which is a cool tactic, a cool thing to do. Buildings, here we have all the rules for buildings. Not really necessary to go through all this. I'm not going to go through all of it, but all the different things about how many people can occupy a building, how to enter a building, shooting at buildings, shooting out and in a buildings, And probably also, you can also destroy buildings, I think. And it has rules here for flammable buildings too. I believe somebody was asking me that at some point or another. And it does have the flammable stuff in here if you say, you know, a building is flammable. Here we have the rules for fighting in buildings, monsters attacking buildings, of course. Some more cool art, original art by Mafu Street, who did most of the art for Warhammer Renaissance. And I really like this guy's stuff. It's really cool. And the bestiary, which is not like the bestiary that we got in the old Warhammer 4th edition, or I think even 5th edition, and 3rd edition too, where it listed every monster. This is just special rules for certain monsters. So the giant is pretty much like in classic Warhammer Fantasy, but we'll go over it a little bit. When a giant attacks, it makes following special attacks, and you get to choose. I believe in the old edition, I could be wrong about this, correct me if I am wrong, at least in one edition, you had to roll randomly. In this one, I don't think you don't roll randomly, you just choose one of the special attacks. And it'll either thump it with its club or swing its club. You can jump up and down. You can yell and brawl, headbutt, or pick up a model. And you pick one of those and go through the all the different stuff about a giant. The other thing cool about a giant is a giant can stumble and fall. And if a giant is slain, it automatically falls over. And you roll a scatter die, and then you bring out the fallen giant template, which I do have in there, but I didn't bring it out. I should have. Oh, man, itchy nose. And then anybody covered under the template is hit by the falling giant, which is a really cool rule that I love from classic Warhammer. We got some rules here for monstrous spiders and scorpions and swarms. Again, nothing too exciting or interesting here. Just the different things about monstrous spiders, scorpions, and swarms. They do have some nuanced little rules. And then here we get the rules for Beastmasters, which is really cool. This is something that mainly was in 3rd edition fantasy, but we did have a few Beastmasters in 4th and 5th. But I really like the Beastmasters from 3rd edition especially, and a lot of armies had them. And here we get them again, which is really cool. So basically you have a Beastmaster that controls a herd of beasts. And if the Beastmaster, you roll randomly when you're shooting at them, and to see if you hit the beasts or the beastmasters. If the beastmaster is slain, the beasts still can act, but they suffer from stupidity. So, and also beasts are classified as fast cavalry. So beastmasters and beasts are pretty cool. I definitely like the beast herds and stuff, and glad that it's included in here. And really, where are we sitting here? Yeah, we're only 18 minutes in, and we're pretty much through this thing. Which is good. It's fine. It'll be a little bit shorter video, but that's fine. And we get to my favorite part of all this, which is the magic phase. I'm not going to read everything about this, but I will explain how magic works in Warhammer Renaissance. And basically, like I said in my summary video, the magic phase of Warhammer Renaissance is exactly the same, or pretty much 90% exactly the same as it was in Warhammer 4th and 5th edition, which is my favorite magic system. It's also the same system that was used in 2nd edition 40k, which I love as well. It's pretty much the same system. And essentially what it is you use magic cards. The way this works is you roll 2 6-sided dice for the winds of magic, and that's how many cards are dealt. So say you roll a 5, you go, 1 to me, 1 to you, blah, 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 and, but the acting player would get 3 and the other player would get 2. And then you go back and forth alternating casting spells. The way you cast spells is every spell, and we'll go down to some of the spell descriptions here so you can see what I'm talking about. Here we go. So we're looking at some ice magic spells. So let's say Bridge of Ice here. It's power 2 and it has a range 18 inches. Of course, you have to be in range. And then you have to have enough power cards, which look like this. This is the power deck. And I believe it's 32 cards, if I remember right. 30-something cards. And you have different cards in here, but most of them are the power cards, and this is a power card. You have to use a certain number of power cards from your hand to cast a spell. So like if you wanted to cast Bridge of Ice, you would need 2 power cards. You would lay down 2 power cards, say I'm casting Bridge of Ice, and of course you'd have to check, see if you're in range, and all that stuff. And then your opponent gets a chance to dispel it. Now there's other types of cards in the power deck. Let's see, I'm going to get some of them out here. Let's get them all out here. I should have pulled them out beforehand. I think that's it. Yes. Okay, so you have Dispel. These are Dispel cards, and I believe you have 8 of these, if I remember right. And basically, your opponent gets a chance to Dispel it. The way Dispel works is, usually you just say, I'm going to Dispel that spell. You can lay it down as a Dispel. If you have one, 1 to 3, the Dispel fails. 4 to 6, the Dispel works. If you are 2 levels higher or 2 levels lower, you get a -1 or +1 of that roll, depending on the situation. If you're lower, it's worse. If you're higher, it's better. Now, that is different from the core 4th and 5th edition Magic. I think it's only a -1 +1, and it's 1 level, or sorry, it's 1 level higher, 1 level lower. In Warhammer Renaissance, they make it 2 levels higher, 2 levels lower, I believe. Let's check on that. I believe I'm right in this. Dispels. Let's check it out. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Dispels. There we go. Okay. Casting a dispel. Yeah, usual chance is 4+. It becomes 5+ if the dispelling's level is 2 or more lowers level, and 3+ if the dispelling wizard's level is 2 levels or more higher. So there you go. Also, if you don't, you can try to dispel with every wizard once per every wizard you have in your army. You can also dispel even if you don't have wizards, and it's on a 5-up chance regardless. I believe dwarves get a bonus to that, but don't hold me to that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I believe they have a natural dispel ability. It's been a while since I've looked at the dwarf stuff. But essentially, that's how the Magic system works. You do have some other cards in the power deck, which I just pulled out and put back. You have Destroy Spell. You can, and certain cards you can hold on to. So basically, you can, if a spell is cast against you or the unit of which you are part of, this card can be played immediately to prevent it taking effect. The spell is automatically dispelled. Also, secretly rolling a d6 and add any power points you wish from your hand. The enemy wizard does the same. Both players reveal their score. If the enemy's wizard's total is equal to or higher, the spell is returned to his hand as normal. If your total is higher, the spell is removed from the wizard's hand and discarded for the rest of the game. So that's Destroy Spell. You also have Drain Magic. The magic phase is ended as soon as this card is played. All power cards are not yet played or returned to the deck. Any spells in play are instantly dispelled. So it just ends the magic phase. Escape. You may hold on to this card until you decide to use it. Escape may be played by a wizard to avoid his death or the effects of an enemy spell. The wizard vanishes into the realm of chaos. He survives there surrounded by a shell of magic, but cannot return until he rolls a 5 or 6 at the start of a magic phase. When the wizard returns, he may be placed anywhere on the table and can cast spells normally in the magic phase. And you have Rebound. You may hold on to this card until you decide to use it. Rebound can be played against a spell cast on the wizard or the unit he's with. The spell automatically rebounds 46 inches back in a straight line toward the wizard who casts the spell. The rebounded spell passes over terrain features, but will affect the first eligible target in its path. I love that one, and I've definitely seen some fun things happen because of that. And then you have Mental Duel. You can play this card to engage an enemy wizard of your choice in a battle of wills. Both players roll a d6 and add the magic levels of their respective wizards to their roll. The player with the highest total wins the duel and drives the knowledge of a spell out of the mind of the loser. The winner can immediately choose a spell card at random from the hand of the losing player and discard it for the remainder of the battle. If the two scores are equal, the duel is a draw and has no effect on either wizard. And finally, you have Total Power. The wizard draws a mighty vortex energy down from the winds of magic and uses it to hurl the full weight of his powers at the foe. You can use this card as a power card for a spell, and it counts as 3 power cards on its own. The spell chosen is cast with such energy that it cannot be dispelled on the turn it is cast. If it is a spell that remains in play, it can be dispelled in future turns as normal. Now, you do need a power deck to play this game. You can find a power deck on the Warhammer Renaissance Facebook group. By the way, I did, well, we'll talk about that at the end here. But you can find it there, and I'm sure you can find it elsewhere. You can also buy your own. Like, these are from the 4th edition Magic cards, and these are the ones I use. There's also spell cards that came with the old Battle Magic set. If you don't have those, that's fine. You don't really need them. The spells are all in here in the rulebook. Also, I should say that not all the text on the cards is 100% correct with the Warhammer Renaissance rules. So you need to look at the Warhammer Renaissance rules, because some of this stuff has a few amendments to it. So I'm not going to go through all the amendments, but each of the special cards does have a few extra things that changed a little bit. So you need to take a look at that and not go by what the cards say. Of course, you could just go by what the old cards say, and that's perfectly fine. In fact, last time I was playing Warhammer Renaissance, I think that's what we were doing. We were just ignoring what was in the Renaissance rulebook and just going with what was on the old Magic cards, and it was fine. So you can do either way, really. It's fine, but they did amend some things and to balance it out a little bit. So you need to pay attention to that if you want to play strictly by the rules, that is. So yeah, that's how Magic works. And here's the dwarf stuff. And so I was right. Dwarves can dispel spells on a 4+ rather than a 5+. So there you go. You have different types of magic, of course, and we're not gonna go through every spell here. Here's the old Battle Magic set that I have, and all the different spells. You have ice magic, you have bright magic, which I love all the different types of magic in the classic Warhammer. You have jade magic. You have amber magic. You have amethyst magic. Gray magic. Celestial magic. Gold magic. Love this. This is great. Light magic. Dark magic, of course. High magic. Necromantic magic. Wah magic. The best magic. And Skaven. Chaos Dwarf. And all the different magic for the different Chaos Gods. You have Tzeentch and Nurgle and Slaanesh and Khorne. Or Khorne doesn't have magic. What am I talking about? That's completely opposite of what Khorne's all about. So yeah, that's pretty much the magic system. You do have some special things with the different races, like the Waaagh of the Orcs. And basically, if they get their magic from the Orc units in play, so the more Orc units you have in play, you're able to channel magic. And if you're not able to keep that Waaagh energy up, you have to roll to see, basically if their head explodes or whatever, which is awesome and flavorful. The Orcs are very colorful and flavorful, and funny enough, we went to some green skins right here. And so there's a few different rules like that for the different magic types, which we won't go over completely, and you can check it out for yourself. And that pretty much concludes our rules overview of Warhammer Renaissance. So I hope you guys got a good understanding of what this game's all about through these two parts in my summary. And if there's any questions you have, or you want to know anything more about Warhammer Renaissance, let me know in the comments below. Make sure to give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Appreciate all the support that people have been reaching out and giving me. Also, I did manage to host the rules up on a separate site besides Facebook, so you can check in the description below. I just put it on my Google Drive. So there you go. You can just go to my Google Drive. You can download the Armies book and the Armies Compendium, and link in the show notes below. And I think that's about it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. And next week, I think we're not going to be talking about Warhammer. I'm going to talk about something else. Not sure what yet. Not sure what we're going to be talking about. I've got a bunch of topics and a bunch of things I want to talk about and review and look at and just philosophize on and pontificate on. And I would also like to play some games and film that also. I'm looking into getting a better camera so we can do that. I've got some solo projects that I want to do, and also I want to do some battle reports with other people. So I'm looking into improving my camera situation so we can actually do that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Till next time, peace.